Two significant weather systems are causing problems across Australia right now. A tropical cyclone is bearing down on Western Australia's northwest coast, expected to make landfall early this weekend. And there's a longer range signal for something developing in the Coral Sea that deserves your attention. We'll get to that later. First, let us focus on what's happening right now in WA. Tropical low 16U is currently sitting about 500 kilometres northwest of Broome, well offshore from the northwestern WA coastline. This system has been slowly intensifying throughout today, but it's hit a snag. Higher levels of wind shear have put the brakes on the development we were seeing this morning. The convection, the deep shower and thunderstorm activity, it's not as intense this afternoon as it was earlier. What does that mean for the forecast? Chances are slipping away for this to become a severe tropical cyclone, the window S closing. Still though, this could pack a significant punch, particularly around the Derby area. Anywhere between Beagle Bay up to the Mitchell Plateau is looking at ballpark Category 2 strength winds. We are re-talking 125 to 140 kilometres per hour as the system crosses the coast, which is likely to happen through Saturday morning. The Bureau of Meteorology has responded accordingly. A cyclone watch is in place for areas south of Broome up to the Mitchell Plateau. A cyclone warning covers the Cape Levesque area, including Derby, up to Cygnet Bay. Those watches and warnings are there for good reason. If you are in these areas and you're unsure about what to do, now is the time to begin preparations. This is the second cyclone to threaten northwestern WA in as many months. Tropical cyclone Haley crossed the coast in a very similar area about a month ago. For a while, this system was shaping up to be Haley version 2. The environment was favourable. Quick intensification was on the cards. But that high wind shear we mentioned has changed the game. Let me break down the current situation with the forecast models. There are some discrepancies between where exactly this storm will cross the coast, but the general consensus points to somewhere between the Cape Levesque area out to about Cygnet Bay. Derby sits right in that zone. Derby is likely to be ground zero for this tropical cyclone S landfall. The European Centre for Medium Range Weather Forecasting, the ECMWF model, has the track coming in along a specific line. I've been examining the latest model runs and the landfall site keeps appearing in a fairly consistent area. That's what gives us confidence in the forecast. When you see model run after model run showing similar results, that SA signal worth paying attention to. Now let us talk about the wind threat. It is pretty minimal when you consider the population distribution. This tropical cyclone is impacting a very sparsely populated stretch of West Australian coastline. The major population centres, places like Broome, they repositioned in a way that should take the edge off the higher end wind gusts. Broome finds itself a bit further inland from the predicted landfall site. The system is tracking to come in quite far north of Broome. And here is the key detail. Broome is expected to experience offshore winds. When the winds are offshore, they are actually lighter than if they were onshore. As such, it's probably going to be a stretch for Broome to see wind gusts stronger than 100 kilometres per hour. Nonetheless, if you are in Broome, it's still a good idea to begin some minor preparations. Clean up the backyard, make sure the trees are trimmed, get the cars under cover. If you're going to get them under cover, throw a tarp over them, strap down anything that could blow away or blow around. It'll be a bumpy afternoon tomorrow, but for the most part, this is business as usual for Western Australia, especially at this time of year. The main risk I am noting right now is the rainfall. This is a tropical cyclone we're dealing with. Tropical means moisture. It means significant rainfall in relation to this system. Anywhere around and to the north of the landfall site is looking at heavy accumulations. This includes much of the northern Kimberley coastline up to about Kolumburu. Falls between 150 to about 250 millimetres throughout the course of this weekend. In a few spots, we could see up to 300 mils. There's a lot of inflow moisture coming in behind the system as well, which means those rainfall accumulations are going to be on the heavier side. Now here is where it gets interesting for the interior. As we push this forecast modelling out through the early parts and middle parts of next week, we'll see this tropical cyclonus remnant energy make it down towards the Pilbara and the interior region of WA. Around that storm centre, heavy showers and thunderstorm activity are expected through parts of central WA. This is likely to cause some significant interruptions and damage to the road network out there. The Great Central Road between Warburton out towards Giles, there's likely to be a significant amount of water on the road. Between Warburton down to Laverton, same story. Significant water expected. If you're planning to travel through this area, get it over and done with this weekend. Some serious rainfall is coming through and those roads will be impassable once it arrives. Let me give you some context here. Back in March or April 2024, we had a very similar situation. An ex-tropical cyclone made it down into the Nullarbor region. We actually had record-breaking rainfall through parts of the Nullarbor, 300 to 500 millimetres in some areas. Unprecedented falls for that part of the country. We are looking at a pretty similar situation here with this ex-tropical cyclone tracking down towards the Nullarbor region. Rainfall accumulations obviously one to be as heavy as that 2024 event because we don't have the slow-moving nature we had back then, but we may still see some significant accumulations around the Rawlinna or the Kaiguna area. There may be a bit of damage to the road network along the Nullarbor. If you're replanning on crossing the Nullarbor, do it sometime this weekend before the rainfall pipes up late on Sunday and then through Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday. Once that rain arrives, you'll be stuck. Unfortunately, there is no relief coming to South Australia, New South Wales, Victoria, the Australian Capital Territory or Tasmania from this system. In fact, and this is a bit of a worry, these areas are going to swelter through an intense heat wave through next week. This tropical cyclone system is likely to make it worse. Here's how. As that low pressure system tracks further south, its inflow band is actually going to push a lot of desert heat into central New South Wales and Victoria. Only very weak sea breezes are expected. The battle between hot and cold is going to be won by the heat. Some very warm temperatures are expected through parts of central New South Wales and parts of Queensland. We're looking at 49 degrees Celsius in some locations. We may be looking at one or two spots getting up towards 50 degrees as we head towards the middle of next week. That's a stinker of a heat wave. If you are in these areas, you'll need to take precautions. Check on elderly neighbours and mates. Keep hydrated, limit outdoor activity during the peak heat, look after your pets and livestock. Right, let's shift our focus now to what is developing further north. There's been a fair bit of activity across northern Queensland and there is a system worth discussing. Tropical low 07U is slowly being absorbed back into the monsoon trough. It is starting to look pretty elongated right now. This system is of no concern to Queensland in terms of direct impacts. Part of its remnant energy is forecast to track over towards northern Queensland. The rest is forecast to head out into the Coral Sea towards Vanuatu and New Caledonia. This system here is nothing to worry about. It's not going to be bringing significant impacts to Queensland at any point in the next couple of weeks. No point in worrying about this one at all. However, as this system gets reclaimed by the monsoon trough, which is likely to happen through Monday and Tuesday, we are likely to see a significant amount of rainfall and moisture stream in through far northern Queensland. This will result in some significant rainfall accumulations for the Daintree coast, the Cassowary coast and the Cairns area, making it about as far south as the lower Herbert and the Townsville area. This rainfall is going to be pretty concentrated into those more traditional wet locations across northern and far northern Queensland. Don't get your hopes up for rainfall accumulations in the Townsville, Bowen or Mackay areas. The rainfall is not coming for those areas. It really is going to be tropical in nature, focused on the far north. From Monday onwards, we'll be looking out for significant convergence zone activity. This may result in significant rainfall accumulations, particularly for the Daintree coast through Tuesday and Wednesday. Then for the Cassowary coast, Wednesday and Thursday. Then this rainfall will tend back to showers through Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Subsequently, rainfall totals do ease off around that time. You can see weekly rainfall accumulations around the Cassowary coast likely to be approaching 300, 400, even 500 millimetres in one or two locations. Nothing crazy here, particularly for this time of year, but we may still see some half-decent falls. Through the southeast coast of the Gulf of Carpentaria, hit or miss rain accumulations between 100 to 300 millimetres are possible, mainly for the coastal locations and mainly for the west coast of the Cape York Peninsula. Rainfall accumulations will be a lot lighter on the northwestern Queensland coast into the Gulf country. This is more of a Cape York Peninsula type weather event. Now, let us look long range. I've been saying this for quite a while. In fact, I made a point about this a couple of weeks ago. We are looking at some long range signals out in the Coral Sea. I would not be making a point of this if I didn't believe it was worth your attention. Please do pay attention here because this is quite significant. What is likely to happen into the first week of February is we're likely to see an area of low pressure develop around the Vanuatu and New Caledonia area. This is supported by all long-range forecast model guidance. Some of the numerical forecast models are now starting to come on board with it as well. What we're re-looking at is something developing out there and then heading towards the Queensland coastline. Now, it is impossible to say for sure where this system is going to be crossing the coast, how strong it's going to be, or if it is even going to make it to Queensland. But there is an increasing signal of something developing and then heading for the Queensland coastline. That is all we know right now. We can make some good guesses, but that is all we know. Those are the facts. As we push the forecast modelling out forward, the model ensembles are calling for a bunch of low pressure centres out in the Coral Sea. Generally speaking, through the first week of February, you can see the general trend takes them towards the west, out towards Queensland. A few of them stray south and then head down towards New Zealand and Norfolk Island. But the general trend is something heading out towards the Queensland area. This is supported by the current and latest Madden-Julian oscillation forecast and also by the latest numerical model forecast as well. When we look at the ECMWF forecast as we push things out into the first week of February, there's something pretty significant showing up in the Coral Sea. Now, of course, we don't interpret forecast models like this at face value. We don't look at this and then start saying, Rockhampton, watch out, this is coming straight for you. We do not do it like that because that is just plain wrong. What we look at is consistency. Run after run with the same or similar storm in a similar location. That's what we call a signal. And that is what we've been seeing for the last couple of days now. You are going to see posts about this. You are going to see news about this. And much of it is going to be sensationalized rubbish at this point in time. When you see an image of a specific forecast model showing a cyclone hitting a specific location 10 days out, please just discard it. Scroll on for your own benefit. People are going to frame this as this is what is going to happen instead of this is a signal that you should be aware of. What I am trying to frame and put to you right now is that this is a signal you should be aware of. Something developing out there and then heading somewhere generally towards the west. Whether that S southwest, bypassing Queensland, or due west, going towards North Queensland, we really don't have any idea right now in terms of the specifics. Just note that this is a signal, and I am taking a bit of a gamble by pointing this out because there are a lot of different ways this could be interpreted. Please, along the Queensland coastline, do not interpret this as me saying you've got an imminent tropical cyclone threat. Just know that this is something you should probably check back in on in about a week's time and see if this is still something to be worried about. Keep in mind that the forecast models have been calling for this for the last couple of days. Long range and ultra long range modelling has been calling for this for the last couple of months now. Ultra long range modelling has gotten increasingly more accurate, particularly over the course of the last 12 months, with artificial intelligence integrations and some of the model refinements we've had, particularly on the ECMWF forecast model. But please do keep this in mind. This is not an imminent threat. I am bringing this to your attention so you know what to look out for and so none of you get tricked by sensationalized headlines. Let me recap what we've covered today because there's a fair bit to keep track of. Western Australia, tropical low 16U is intensifying offshore, expected to reach tropical cyclone status later this evening and potentially Category 2 strength before making landfall Saturday morning somewhere between Cape Levesque and Cygnet Bay. Derby is likely ground zero. Wind threat is moderate for populated areas. Broome will see some impacts, but probably 1T exceed 100 km/h gusts. The main threat is rainfall, 150 to 300 millimetres across the northern Kimberley coastline through the weekend. The remnant system tracks south into central WA and the Pilbara region early next week, bringing heavy rainfall to the interior and likely making the Great Central Road and sections of the Nullarbor impassable from Sunday onwards. If you need to travel through these areas, do it this weekend. Eastern states, an intense heatwave develops next week as the tropical system S inflow pushes desert heat into New South Wales and Victoria. Temperatures approaching 50 degrees possible in some inland areas. Take appropriate precautions. Far North Queensland. Monsoon moisture brings significant rainfall to the Daintree and Cassowary coasts from Monday onwards. 300 to 500 millimetres possible in some locations through the week. This is concentrated rainfall in traditional wet season areas. Townsville South 1TC significant totals. Coral Sea long-range models showing a signal for tropical development near Vanuatu and New Caledonia in the first week of February with a general trend towards Queensland. This is a signal to be aware of, not an imminent threat. Check back in a week to see if this signal strengthens. Don T get caught up in sensationalised forecasts showing specific impacts this far out. For those in the path of the Western Australian cyclone, preparations should be underway now if they haven't started already. This is the second cyclone in as many months for this region. You know the drill. Secure loose items. Stock up on essentials. Make sure you've got torches, batteries, drinking water. Check your cyclone plan. Know where you are going to shelter if needed. The rainfall is the main concern with this system. Flash flooding is possible in the Kimberley region. If it's flooded, forget it. Never drive through flood water. You don't know how deep it is, you don't know how fast it's moving, and you don't know if the road surface is still there underneath. For the heat wave developing in the eastern states, this is serious. Temperatures approaching 50 degrees are dangerous. If you are not used to extreme heat, understand that this is not just uncomfortable, it's potentially life-threatening. Stay indoors during the peak heat. Use air conditioning if you have it. If you've done tea, go somewhere that does. Shopping centres, libraries, community centres, don tea, try to tough it out. Check on elderly neighbours. Check on mates who live alone. A quick phone call could save a life. Make sure your pets have shade and plenty of water. If you've got livestock, make sure they've got access to water and shelter. Be aware of the fire danger. With these temperatures and the dry conditions across much of the southeast, fire danger ratings will be extreme to catastrophic. Total fire bans are likely. Check the fire danger rating every day. Have your bushfire plan ready. If you're in a bushfire-prone area and the rating hits catastrophic, leaving early is the safest option. For those in far north Queensland waiting for the monsoon moisture, this is typical wet season activity. 300 to 500 millimetres in a week is significant, but it's not unusual for this time of year in those locations. The main impacts will be localised flooding, slippery roads, and possibly some creek and river rises. Stay informed through the Bureau of Meteorology and local emergency services. This long-range coral sea signal is one to watch, but it's not one to panic about. We are still 10 days or more away from any potential impacts. A lot can change in that time. The system might not even develop. It might develop and track south, missing Queensland entirely. It might develop and strengthen significantly. We simply don't know yet. What we do know is there is a consistent signal across multiple models for tropical development in that region during that time frame. That S worth being aware of, that S worth checking back on. But it is not worth losing sleep over right now. The key with long-range forecasts is understanding what they can to tell us. They can tell us there is potential for development. They can tell us general trends. They cannot tell us specific impacts at specific locations this far out. Anyone telling you otherwise is either mistaken or trying to get clicks. I'll be monitoring all these systems closely over the coming days. The WA cyclone is the immediate concern. We'll have much better detail on the exact landfall location and intensity over the next 12 to 24 hours as it gets closer to the coast. The heat wave in the eastern states will develop through early next week. We'll get more specific temperature forecasts as we get closer. The far north Queensland rainfall will ramp up from Monday. We'll see how the convergence zones set up and where the heaviest falls are likely to be concentrated. And that coral sea signal, we'll keep watching the models. If it continues to show consistent development in the same area over the next few days, confidence will increase. If the models start diverging and showing different solutions, confidence will decrease. That S, how it works. Stay informed through official sources. The Bureau of Meteorology is your primary source for weather warnings and forecasts. State emergency services will provide guidance if conditions deteriorate. Don't rely on social media posts or sensationalised headlines for your information. For those in Western Australia in the Cyclone S path, stay safe this weekend. For those dealing with the heat next week, look after yourselves and your mates. For those in far north Queensland, typical wet season, nothing you haven't seen before. And for everyone watching that coral sea signal, we'll know a lot more in a week S time. That S, the situation across Australia. Multiple systems, multiple impacts, multiple regions affected. Pay attention to what S relevant for your area. Don't get distracted by what S happening elsewhere. Focus on the threats that apply to you and prepare accordingly. The models will update, the forecasts will refine, and we'll have better information as these systems develop. Check back regularly for updates. Things can change quickly with tropical systems.